I'm Russ Woglom, and I work with the Guthrie Clinic. I'm actually, though, a primary care physician, still practicing. And I've been involved now with the DSRIP for quite a while, and I sit on the clinical governance committee, you've heard, and I think I'm chair of quality in the West RPU. I'm sure I've got a few other roles, titles that I can't recall with DSRIP, but it's been a fun project for me so far, and that's a little bit of what I wanted to share. Just real quickly, when you're the last speaker, you're the one person standing between all of you and the exit door, and I get that. But we've been around Guthrie Clinic. We're really the nation's oldest long-standing medical group. Been around for a long time. We have a big footprint. I don't really want to make a commercial, but we have patients and offices in all of these areas, all of the Northwest, East, and South RPUs as part of our DSRIP as CCN. As everyone's talked about, this is a big area, but it's more rural than it is anywhere else. And where I am in the very west, we have a lot of overlap between Flips, one of the Finger Lakes, one of our similar PPSs as well. But our Corning Hospital is in that western area, and that's where most of my role has been so far. I think everyone's touched upon all the changes that we're feeling. There's more, if you want to hang around in CCN, there is more in acronyms than I can possibly keep up with. One day I actually sat in one of our meetings, and being an annoying doctor, if you will, you're like, oh my God, there's DSRIP, there's PCMH, there's meaningful use, ICD-10, NACRA now, we don't want to forget the newer ones, HEDIS. I actually wrote down all the ones in the DSRIP meeting, and there were 33 of them. I couldn't believe how we created this vocabulary. In our world in primary care, we're overwhelmed. We are overwhelmed. My belief, being an early cynic as well in terms of can we really do something on a state level that's seemingly so overwhelming, my belief is if we do this DSRIP right, it's going to help us. Us as the primary care providers, kind of in the firing lines. That's how I see it. And I want to just touch a little bit upon how I think some of these things are going to be helped. We have a couple of care management, care improvement projects. I know all of you work on controlling hypertension, all of you work on COPD. We all think we're really good. I believe that. And I also believe my patients are sicker than anybody else's. But as we've kind of gone down this whole quality thing in population health in Guthrie, we started on the hypertension road. And when you start seeing your scores on a computer level, it's not quite what it felt like. And we actually have already taken the care management approach for hypertension. We've been implementing it. We're working on it. We're working on it every day of the week right now. We got to the end of June to see if we're going to meet our goals. But believe it or not, it's actually been a help. We came up with ways to make it simpler. We kind of shared the work so it wasn't all on our collective shoulders as primary care. It can be better. Having Interact, I was medical director of a nursing home for a while. In our work area, we've seen one nursing home implement Interact and see a tremendous decrease in readmissions. And believe it or not, we haven't talked about some of the complexities. We're talking about Medicaid, but those Medicare/Medicaid dual eligibles, they're in our group. We're accountable for them. So the nursing homes aren't really out of sight, out of mind for all of us. And we've seen already in our area tremendous improvements that will make care better for our patients. Having care managers, having home visits. We talked about you heard a little bit about the transition program, but basically the hope is someone's going to go to their house. You know, it's a little different than the Medicare program. You know, our hope is we're going to have people go to their home, make a home visit. What are we going to find? I don't know. We're going to find some things that I don't think all of us know as primary care physicians. I really believe if we do this right, we're going to share some of this work. I mean, you can call it all these different descriptions. You know, we'll reorganize, we'll redesign, we'll streamline. We could always bring, lean. We can become lean. But I really believe we can redistribute some of that work and take a little more help so that we can get back to doctoring. That's really what we want to do. I was really struck. I told some of the people at clinical governance meeting one time when I was having one of these sob story moments, but I was really struck. I've been in practice now, I'm about to start my 30th year. I do a lot of diabetes work in my practice. I actually think I'm a reasonable doc. You know, I don't think I'm the greatest thing to ever walk the earth, but I take a lot of pride in what I do. I've thought I've known my patients. I saw a patient of mine I hadn't seen in a while, and I'm sure all of you have these kinds of patients. He's in his early 50s, diabetic disaster. He's a vasculopath, he's tough. But I saw him for the first time, got a bunch of lab work, and my foot sore kind of a thing. I did an x-ray on his foot, but I knew already he had a little bit of a Charcot. You know, you kind of get the idea of the diabetic patient. Get all of his lab work back, go to call him, and I call him on his cell phone, and I can't get him to answer. Well, the reason I'm calling him is, his A1C was like 14. His LDL cholesterol was 180, obviously stopped his med. His urine microalbumin was high. And on his foot x-ray, not only did he have a Charcot joint, but he had a fractured first metatarsal. I'm sitting there thinking, how the heck is he walking on this thing? And I'm like, I got quality goals. Oh gosh, I got one more A1C that's out of range. Now I'm dead. I want to call him up, and I can't decide if I want to chew him out or, I'm going to change his drugs and say, can you please get back on your atorvastatin? I'm calling him every day. Then I'm calling him twice a day, every day, and I'm getting no answer. And this is going on now for a while. I've got an address, but I'm not a big send a letter, call me back, your labs suck. It's just not my thing. And so I'm calling, and then all of a sudden, you get busy, and it's now 2 days, and you're still calling. Well, finally, I reach him after 3 weeks. I mean, imagine, he's got this fracture, and it's killing me. I haven't told him. He's probably over at his malpractice attorney talking to him about my care. But I finally do reach him, and the whole kind of nuts and bolts of this went like this. He had just come back when I had met him again. He was homeless. And all this time I'm trying to reach him, he's either sleeping outside, he's at one friend, but it's not really a good place friend, and he can't turn his cell phone on because he's out of money. And eventually he gives up finding a place here and hitchhikes halfway, almost all the way across country to go back to live with his brother. And when he finally gets there, he gets some money from work, working on his fractured toe, or foot, basically. And then he can finally take my phone call. And I'm sitting here thinking all I wanted to do was increase his insulin, make sure he took his cholesterol pill. Desrep should allow us, if you will, to interact in a case like this, to intervene. I felt like a failure as a physician. How could I not know he's homeless? I'm sitting about how much insulin he's taking. He's thinking, am I going to freeze to death tonight? Or am I even going to have a meal tomorrow? And I really felt as if, wow, if we can bring all of these organizations together to help redesign our care so that we don't have circumstances like this. We get him plugged in to a place that's homeless. We get him into a food pantry. We could do an awful lot better. And it was a real reminder to me, you don't always understand people's social determinants. There is a lot more going on sometimes than we realize. And I looked back in the mirror and I didn't say, well, bad you. I run on a treadmill, just like all of you do, all day long. Treadmill, treadmill, treadmill. Patient, patient, as best as you can. It's where we need this coordination of help, and we can be much more successful at patients like him. I had some other slides, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through those. But my belief after being part of this DESREP leadership program for a while is that there's ways that this can help us. Yes, we're going to have to look at some things and perhaps re-look at some redesigns, but anything we do on our hypertension side, we didn't do it for Medicaid. We did it all across the board. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. There was nothing bad about improving care. We improved, I think, a lot of our physician participation and buy-in, and our scores right now have really improved to the point where we're proud of them. I think that what came of that was simple solutions, and I don't think, I've had some of my Guthrie colleagues here, I don't feel like we overwhelmed them on how we improved hypertension care. I think we can find ways through this where we'll coordinate care a little differently, but this doesn't have to mean another group of letters for us to manage. This can be something where it can help us in our plight do a little bit better job. So thank you again for staying. I applaud all of you. It's been a long night.